Hello, everybody. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Yesterday, you learned about a moon shot, or maybe I should say moon's shot from Earth to Jupiter.
Jupiter shot? A moons of Jupiter shot.
There you go.
Most precise.
And today we have another moon, but this one you're more familiar with because it's the Earth's moon that we call moon. Why is the moon following me?
好，我们的中文标题是举头望明月，位置都不变。
Okay, it's a full article. I'll read through it once, and then we go over it sentence by sentence for you. Please listen carefully. Many children have stared out of a car window at night to see the moon gleaming up above. Some have also noticed that the moon seems to stay in the same place, even if the car is driving forward. Trees, cars, buildings, and all the other objects pass by in the blink of an eye, but not the moon. It seems as if the moon just follows the moving car. This is an optical illusion. The moon isn't actually following anyone. It's simply too far away for people to judge any change in distance as a car moves. With smaller objects that are much closer to the car's position, the angle from which we view them changes rapidly as they are approached and passed. However, the distance between people on Earth and the moon is so vast in comparison that the shift in the angle and distance is basically imperceptible. Another factor that makes the moon appear to stay in place is that there are usually no objects of comparable size visible in the sky. The moon usually occupies a large portion of the sky all by itself. Without a good frame of reference, it's very difficult for the human eye to make accurate judgments about size and distance. Another optical illusion involving the moon occurs when it is closer to the horizon. You may have noticed that the moon always looks bigger around dusk or dawn. When the moon is near the horizon, our brain can compare it to buildings or mountains. At these times, it seems much larger than when it is floating high above us in the sky. The truth is that the moon never changes its size.
Well, because it's a physical body orbiting us in space.
Hey, I gained 20 pounds this year. I've changed my size.
You're not the moon. The moon is constant.
But I'm a physical body.
You're a human physical body, which can gain and lose weight. The moon does not have fat content that can, and the moon does not store calories in its belly. The moon is...
But you never know what it does store.
Here's the thing. The moon is not a sentient being. I'm sorry to break it to you, but the moon is just a large rock circulating the Earth. Circumnavigating, going around. It's a large rock.
Circling.
It's not a person. Circling, thank you. So it just is. Okay. And its size does not change, even though optically its size seems to change because of various things about atmosphere and blah, blah, blah. Uh-huh. It's a rock, okay? I'm sorry. It's like telling people there's no Santa Claus. Anyways, many children have stared out of a car window at night. Oh my gosh, the nights that I have spent staring out of a car window. I don't know, there's something romantic. I don't know. I grew up in car culture, so to me it feels very romantic. That whole notion of like you're a child and you're staring out of the car window after coming home from a very long day and you're just in that headspace of going, and you're seeing the night sky, and there's that moon there and you're just like, so beautiful. And then, you see the moon gleaming. It's shiny. It's beautiful. It's putting light down on the earth. It's creating this magical silvery black and white landscape. Like, romantic. Yes. So yes, I have been one of those children staring out of a car window to see the moon gleaming up above.
OK， 所以呢，这个 Angela 老师呢，他小时候他这个汽车文化嘛，所以他有很多小时候的回忆。坐在车子里面，在晚上的时候看着车窗外的月亮。那常常就出去玩，晚上回到家了，那坐在车子里面呢，很舒服，可能很累了，看着月亮等等的。But it's much better to ride a horse.
I agree. Also, it would be even better Those ancient Chinese moon watching parties where you're hanging around with like 20 of your best buds and you're drinking like some really nice rice wine and you've got like poetry and then this moon hanging over you. Like, yeah, that was good times.
Yeah.
She remembers.
I wish I did. I wish.
啊，那我刚刚开一个玩笑，我说骑马可能更过瘾，这个比开车还更过瘾。那这个 Angel 老师就说，哇，那我们都开玩笑，就是这个更想到古时候中国人呢，这个对着举杯望明月，那几个好朋友在一起赏月，都很棒的。所以呢，月亮就让我们感觉到非常的 romantic 那种感觉。
Yeah, seriously, you just got to have a moon at night and you're having a good time.
Yeah,
really, mostly.
Yeah, 真的，月亮是很棒的一个朋友。所以他说这个stare 就是盯着什么看，然后 stare out of a car window 就是从车子里面呢透过车窗往外看 at night， 然后可以看到这个月亮呢 gleam 这个字是发出微光，那有的时候是反射的光，所以它这个光不是很强的。那 up above 就是在天空上面。
Some have also noticed that the moon seems to stay in the same place, even if the car is driving forward.
That was the coolest thing about it. You're like, the moon is like not moving, but we're moving.Yeah.
Right. And maybe if you looked out, a tree would cover the moon, but then the moon would reappear. The tree was gone, but there's the moon in the same place.
Yeah, the tree went by and the moon was still there.
Yeah. 所以有的时候你看到这个月亮被树遮住了，可是过了一下子，树不见了，好，月亮还在那边啊。所以他有些人甚至于有些人 have also noticed that 也看到了，注意到这个月亮呢 seems to stay in the same place。感觉起来好像它似乎是月亮一直在同一个位置 even if the car is driving forward 即使这个车子呢是往前走 And I have a question here. The car, can the car drive itself? The car is driving forward.
Yeah, it's a description of what the car is doing.
There's two definitions to drive. One is to operate a vehicle and one is to progress forward in space.And so under the second definition, this works.
所以 drive 有两个意思哈，一个是你真的去驾驶这个车子，好，那另外一个意思呢是被驾驶的往前走，就是往前行进的意思。所以在这里用 driving forward 没有问题。But we can also say even if the car is moving forward, right?
Yeah, or being driven forward if you want to be really like precise about the driving thing.
Okay, yeah, 所以我们也可以说这个 car is moving forward， 或者是你真的要非常精准的讲的话，你可以说 even if the car is being driven forward。但那样子就是太精准了，有点啰嗦了。
I mean, there's an example of like a boat. The boat is driving forward through the waves. It's forcing its way through the waves. So that's what that driving is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it works. It just doesn't feel intuitive because driving the other meaning.
Yeah, 所以 drive 可以这样用。像刚刚 Angela 是举的那例，船破浪前进，也是你跟 the boat is driving forward.
Yeah. Okay, so...Going back to our story, though, the car is moving forward and then trees, cars, buildings, and all the other objects pass by in the blink of an eye. Just, you know, you close your eyes and open it again, they're gone. But not the moon. The moon is still there. The moon is constant. The moon loves you.
好，所以呢，这个 trees 有树啊，还有车子啊，还有 buildings， 还有这个建筑物啊，还有所有其他的 objects 物体都会 pass by， 都是会经过你。In the blink of an eye， 就是转眼之间，他们就从你身边过去了。但是呢 ，not the moon， 但是月亮不会，月亮 is always there.
It seems as if the moon just follows the moving car. It's almost like attached to you, like maybe you have a kite.In the wind, and if you run, the kite follows you. That's what it seems like with the moon from the car.
好，所以这个地方讲 it seems as if 就似乎感觉起来好像是这个月亮呢 just 它就是在那里 follows the moving car 它就是在跟着你这个行动中的车子行驶中的车子这个月亮就一直跟着你这一辆行驶中的车子
This is an optical illusion.Optical means having to do with vision or lines of sight or eyes, and illusion has to do with things not seeming to be what they are.
好，所以这是一个 optical illusion. Optical 就跟视觉有关的 illusion 是一个错觉，所以呢，这其实是一个视觉上面的错觉。This is an optical illusion.
The moon isn't actually following anyone, of course, but that is the illusion.
好，所以呢月亮呢 isn't actually 其实它并没有 following anyone 它没有跟踪任何的人 so don't flatter yourself.
Also, it's just too far away. That's why it's not actually following anyone. It's simply too far away for people to judge any change in distance as a car moves. it's not moving because it's not really moving relative to you. You're moving such a tiny distance compared to the distance between you and the moon that actually I think in real terms it's not really moving. Don't you think? Us moving on the planet?
The moon revolves around the Earth.
So it's also going quite quickly.
It has apparent motion.
But I mean, your motion in the car on that tiny little arc of Earth is not that far compared to...
Oh, Lord, no. It's over 200,000 miles.
So actually, you really aren't moving relative to the moon. And so the moon is really not moving relative to you. So I think what we're perceiving is true. We're perceiving that it's not really moving relative to us. The trees and stuff are moving quite quickly relative to us. Or, well, we're moving quite quickly relative to the trees, but we're not moving at all quickly relative to the moon.
Yep.
So it's not actually illusion. It's the real thing. It's not moving. It's not following us, but it's not moving. We're not moving relative to it.
那刚刚这个 Angel 老师讲的其实就是我们下面会继续解释，就是我们其实移动的距离太短了，跟月球的距离比起来太短了，所以其实从月球角度来看的话，我们那个其实根本没有什么动，对他来讲的话，我们根本没有什么移动。那事实上这个在视觉错觉上面也是这样解释，所以他说 It's simply too far away， 所以就指月亮 simply 就是没什么好说，就是这样子，很简单，就是这样子而已，就是它太远了，远到 for people to judge， 远到人们没有办法判断，judge 就判断 any change in distance 就是任何距离上的改变 as a car moves 随着车子的移动，虽然说在距离上面有改变了，我们车子在往前走，但是因为月球太远了，远到我们人没有办法去判断任何在距离上面的改变。
With smaller objects that are much closer to the car's position, the angle from which we view them changes rapidly as they are approached and passed.The moon is too far away to appear to move, but as you drive down a road, things on the side of the road in particular will seem to move very quickly. If you're at a higher altitude and you look at mountains in the distance, they won't seem to move very much, but if you're careful, you will note after a few minutes that they do seem to have changed their position.
所以他说呢 with 如果有一个 smaller objects 如果是比较小的物体 that are much closer to the car's position 比较小的物体，那这些物体是离车子的位置更近的一些小的物体，那这个时候呢 the angle from which we view them 我们所看到这些物体的这个角度呢就会 changes rapidly 就会改变得很快 as they are approached and passed 随着这些小物体靠近我们然后经过我们，这个时候我们跟这个物体之间的相关角度就会改变的比较快，非常的快，快到我们就可以注意到。所以例如说等一下我们也会讲到，像如果是树的话，路旁边的树的话，我们跟它之间的角度改变就会非常的快，我们就会觉得说哦，你看刚刚树在我们前面，那很快的树从我们旁边经过了。但是刚刚 Bruce 老师举的那例子也很好，有的时候如果是很远的山你乍看之下好像那个山没有在动，但其实过一下你就会发现那个山还是动了，所以因为那个地方山离我们的距离又稍微远了一点，所以这完全是距离跟角度所产生出来的一个错觉。
Okay, so, however, the distance between the people on Earth and the moon is so vast, so big in comparison to the distance you've traveled on Earth, that the shift in the angle, the movement in the angle and distance, is basically imperceptible. Imperceptible means you can't see it.
好，所以它这个地方的比较近的东西我们就比较能够感觉出来，因为角度的变化会比较大，我们就会知道相关位置的改变。但是呢The distance between people on Earth 就人在地球上的人跟 the moon 之间的距离，就是地球上的人跟月球之间的距离呢 is so vast 是非常的大。那怎么个大法呢？它是 in comparison 就是相比较之下，就跟我们身边的这个树啊或者路树等等这个道路旁边的树来讲比较起来，但我们跟地球跟月球的距离相较之下 in comparison 就是比较之下是大很多，就跟月球距离非常远。 in comparison 这个是很棒的一个说法，就是比较之下，英文里面常常讲说这个某个东西 pales in comparison P-A-L-E-S 就是 A 在相比之下立刻相形失色变成苍白了，所以 in comparison 就这样用，所以这个距离非常的大，比较起来距离非常的大，大到怎么样 The shift in the angle and distance 在角度和距离上的 shift 的移动的改变 is basically 基本上是 imperceptible 就是无法感知的，无法察觉的。
Okay, next paragraph. Another factor that makes the moon appear to stay in place is that there are usually no objects of comparable size visible in the sky. You could say, well, wait a minute, what about those stars? Actually, they're even vaster distances than the Earth to the moon, so they seem to stay right where they are even for a whole human lifetime.
好，他说呢，另外一个因素使得这个月亮 appear 看起来好像是 stay in place。stay in place 就是待在原地的意思。in place 它有一个意思就是 in the same spot 就是在原地的意思。所以另外一个原因我们看起来月亮是在原地不动的原因是因为 there are usually 通常是没有一个物体 of comparable size 就是可以拿来相比的一个大小。所以换句话说没有一个相似大小的一个跟月亮可以相比的一个物体 visible in the sky 可以让我们在天空当中看到，所以你没有参考的物体可以去比较，那所以我们看月亮就会比较大。
So the other thing is the moon usually occupies a large portion of the sky all by itself. If you have a large portion of something, it means that there's a big amount of it. So if it occupies a large portion, it takes up a lot of space. But it's all by itself, so it looks big.But we have no frame of reference, which is going to be in the next sentence.
Yeah, frame of reference.
好，其实就是一个参考的架构。所以前面一句说，就天空里面没有一个东西大小可以跟月球相比，好，就可以拿来比拟的一个大小，让我们当参考的一个参考架构。那接下来这句就解释，他说这个月亮呢，通常它会占据 occupies a large portion of the sky， 在天空里面，月亮它会占很大的一个比例。它占了一个相当大的比例，各位看嘛，这个往天上看，其他星星都小小一点点，就是一个月亮一个圆圆的在那边大大的一颗，而且是 all by itself。by itself 就是 alone with nothing else added， 所以月亮本身就那么大一个在那边大大一颗，那天空里面没有一个跟它一样大的东西可以让我们来比较。
Without a good frame of reference, without anything to compare it to, it's very difficult for the human eye to make accurate judgments about size and distance.So accurate means faithful or true, especially in terms of, say, mathematics or measurements. But here's one for you. If you're out in the countryside, it doesn't work too well in the cities because you can't see too many stars. But the next time you're out in the countryside, if there's a moon, doesn't have to be a full moon, you will notice some stars near it. Check back in an hour, and then you will see, the moon is, further away or higher up than it was compared to those stars. This talk about frame of reference, the stars are light years away from us. Just vast differences in distance. But the moon, although very far from us, compared to the stars, we can see the movement of the moon about 1 degree every 2 hours, if you know how to measure degrees.
所以Bruce 老师说这个乡下比较容易看得清楚，可以看看这个月亮，好，看看它周围的星星相关位置。那1个小时之后再去看的话，你会发现有一点不太一样。那是因为月球虽然离我们很远，但是星星离我们更远，所以相比之下你会发现我们反而从月球跟星星的相对位置来比，你反而会感觉到月球好像在移动的那种感觉。所以这个非常有趣。所以呢这地方讲到说 without a good frame of reference 你没有一个好的参考架构，一个好的参考标准的话 it's very difficult for the human eye 对于人类的用人眼去 make 要能够做出一个 accurate judgment 一些正确的判断 about size and distance 对于大小跟距离人眼要做出正确的判断是非常困难的，就是没有一个参考架构的情况之下是这样子的。好，那其实很简单，例如说你如果看到一个照片，你就看到一条鱼，可能不知道那鱼的大小，但如果你把那个鱼跟那个钓到那个鱼的渔夫放在一起，你就知道这个鱼原来这么大一只或者这么小一条。
So there's another optical illusion involving the moon, and that occurs when it is closer to the horizon. The horizon is that line between the sky and the earth.
也就是地平线，就是 horizon. 所以另外一个 optical illusion, 另外一个视觉错觉 involving the moon, 跟月球有关的一个视觉错觉会发生，什么时候发生呢？当月球呢 is closer to the horizon, 月球离地平线比较近的时候，又会出现另外一个视觉错觉。
You may have noticed that the moon always looks bigger around dusk or dawn. Okay, what's important to remember here is we're not necessarily talking about a full moon. It could be any phase of the moon, a quarter, a half, something like that. But as the moon, whatever phase it's in, approaches the horizon, it will look larger.
好，所以这跟有没有满月没有关系，只要是月亮都一样，它靠近地平线的时候，它感觉都会比较大。所以他这里讲说，你可能有注意到说，这个月亮呢，总是看起来比较大 ，always looks bigger. Around 在什么时候感觉特别大呢？在 dusk 是黄昏或者是 dawn 黎明的时候，看起来特别大。
So when the moon is near the horizon, our brain can compare it to buildings or mountains. When it's up in the middle of the sky, it's hard to compare. But when it's right there, right next to them, it's easy to compare it to something. In this case, buildings or mountains.
所以当这个月亮靠近地平线的时候，我们的头脑呢就可以 compare it to， 可以把它跟什么相比呢？ It 就指月亮，我们可以把月亮跟什么相比呢？跟 buildings or mountains， 跟建筑物或者跟山来相比。
At these times, that would be Dusker Dawn, it seems much larger than when it is floating high above us in the sky. This is most noticeable when you do have a full moon.
好，尤其是你有满月的时候，这个特别明显。所以 at these times 就是在黄昏或者黎明的时候呢， it seems much larger， 月亮看起来大很多。跟什么时候相比大很多呢？跟它在 floating， 就是漂浮在 high above us in the sky， 就是它在高高漂浮在我们头上的天空的时候，感觉起来这个时候它大很多。就是黄昏黎明的时候的月亮看起来比漂浮在天空当中的月亮大很多。
The truth is that the moon never changes its size. The moon is always the moon.
Yeah, 好，所以事实是呢，就是月亮从来没有改变它的大小。
Okay, we have a few questions for you now. Reading comprehension questions. Number 1, what is the reason the moon appears to follow people in a car?
好，是什么原因让月亮看起来好像跟着车内的人们
？The answer is B. It's the angle of vision.
答案是 B， 是视角的问题。
And number 2, what can we learn about the moon from the passage?
我们可以从本文得知关于月亮什么事情呢？
And the answer is D. Its actual size, its real size in space remains the same, whether it hangs high or lies near the horizon.
答案是 D， 月亮的真实大小，不管是高挂天上时，或者是接近地平线的时候，都一样。
And the final question, number 3, which of the following best concludes the passage?
下列哪一句最适合总结本文？
The best answer is A. Seeing is not believing.
答案是 A， 眼见不一定为凭，因为你眼睛看以为月球变大或变小，其实没有这样子。
Well, that's it for today's program. Hope you learned a bit and enjoyed it too. A week from today, we have the three of us back with you again. We're looking forward to it, and we hope you are too. Until then, bye-bye.